After the modim, after we give thanks and acknowledge for all that God does on our behalf, the unlimited chesed, miracles, and it's been proven over endless times. Therefore, we give thanks to you. And then we continue. And we discussed this yesterday a little bit. Al kulam, yisbarach v'yisram shimchom al kenu tamid l'med. And for all of what we just discussed, for all those reasons, yisbarach. What's yisbarach? V'yisramam shimcho. Your name should be blessed and should be exalted. Now, what does that mean? Because of all that you've done, which we're beholding, we're thankful and indebted to you, unceasingly. For all of that, your name should be blessed and should be exalted. We discussed earlier, when we say Baruch Atah Hashem, blessed are you, God, we're saying you are the source of all blessing. But we're saying your name, because of all that you've done and you continue to do, your name should be blessed and exalted. Exalted, we understand. It should be revered. But what does it mean? Your name should be blessed. If blessing emanates from God, what do you mean your name should be blessed? Are we blessing the name of God? So how do we understand in this particular context? You know, the Ramchal cites, based on the Zohar, there's an Aramaic statement that the initiative that's taken from below activates an initiative from above. Meaning, we do actions. If they're appropriate actions, it activates a force, and that force activates a force from above, and that force descends downward. So due to our own initiative and recognition and actualization of doing certain things, we activate forces, and when those forces ascend, God responds with even a greater degree of that type of force. So if we do an action which activates energies of purity and holiness, that activates greater levels of purity and holiness. If a person would be a beneficiary of unlimited kindness, miracles, wonders, and we don't acknowledge it, we don't appreciate it, and we're blasé on it, what does God do? God says, if that is the case, it's clear you don't have an appreciation for what I provide. As a result of that, there's a downturn of whatever that was until that moment. To the degree that we acknowledge and recognize who God is to us and what he provides for us, and that causes us to revere him and esteem him and sing his praises, this causes him to increase his level of obviousness and even to a greater degree, his kindness. So we say, because of all that you've done, al kulam, what we said in the modim, yizborach, v'yisramam shimcha. Through that acknowledgement, your name should be blessed, meaning your name, which reflects God's relationship to this existence, all blessing should emanate from that. Yizbarach means it should continue to be the source of blessing. Because we acknowledge that you are the source of blessing, because we express our beholdness, our indebtedness to you, and we give thanks for that, that acknowledgement should cause your name to be blessed, that it should continue emanating and being the source of blessing, and it should be exalted. By you doing more, God is even esteemed to a greater degree. He's revered to a greater degree, because we have a great appreciation for who he is. Shibcho Malkeinu, your name, our king. Rambam writes that the names of God, whether it's the name which connotes Rachmim, mercy, it's the name that connotes justice, exactness, indiscriminate kindness. Is that the essence of God? Is God's essence kindness? Is his essence exactness? Is his essence power? What's his essence? We only know God in the context that it relates to our existence. We have no idea who God is. We know he's infinite. Infinite he is. But is he innately kind, or that's the way he relates to this existence in the context of kindness and mercy? The names that God reveals to us through the Torah, he's setting the profile of what his relationship is with creation and what his relationship is with the Jewish people. But in terms of who he is, we have no idea who he is. In terms of his essence, we have no idea. Because whatever we see and know, it's only what he shared with us. The Maral of Prague says, there's only one word you could describe God. One word, no other words. Echod. He's one and only. Because if he's infinite, nothing exists outside of him. Everything else is a manifestation of his willing that existence. As the Rambam writes in the fundamentals of Torah, everything that exists, whether it's the physical realm, the spiritual realm, the greatest angel, the greatest soul, that depended on someone else, on something else. God is not dependent on anything. We're dependent on an outside force which allows us to exist and function, advance. God is independent of everything. In Rambam's verse, he's Muchrach HaMetzius. He exists because he exists. That's the basis for God's existence. We exist because God willed our existence. The potential we were able to achieve and actualize is because he willed that we should have that ability to achieve that level of potential. The reason why we have choice is because God endowed us with that ability of free choice. For all that you've done, those names, due to the acknowledgments of all those attributes which express themselves and touch our lives, they should continue emanating that blessing. They should be exalted. Your name should be exalted, our King, continuously. What is the value of the exaltation of God's, the name of our King? That's the ultimate glory. When you exalt the King and you extol the King forever, that means the value of us, why God created us to be the ultimate beneficiaries of our relationship, is to be able to acknowledge, and based on the degree of that acknowledgement, the depth and breadth of that acknowledgement, the enthusiasm of that acknowledgement, the excitement and the exhilaration which is infused in that acknowledgement, that will determine the nature of our relationship. You know, there's an expression. There's an expression, one is touched. We're touched. To the degree you're touched, you're touched. And if you're not touched, you're not touched. Like somebody sees somebody, gets all excited. So his person who's next to him says, what are you getting excited about? What did you see? What are you experiencing? So he shows him and he explains what he sees. And he says, I don't see what you're getting excited about. Why are you so impressed? So the person says, you know, if you're touched, you're touched. You're not touched, you're not touched. That's the reality. Certain people recognize something to be special, and it is special. Other people, because they have some kind of handicap or blockage, they can't appreciate what that is. Can't appreciate. Therefore, they don't get excited. God says the purpose of creation is to overcome all impediments, all blockages, remove all those coverings to reveal who I am. At the degree that you reveal who I am, that's the degree that you can have a relationship with me. But if you're going to be arm's length because you don't appreciate and understand who I am, the relationship will always be arm's length. And if you don't recognize it whatsoever, then there's not even the basis of a relationship. And that's the challenges of life. Do we continuously upgrade and advance? And God gave us the ability. A person is given a 1,000-rung ladder. So evidently, if you're given a 1,000-rung ladder, you have to climb 1,000 rungs to reach the top of the ladder. What if you're given a ladder that the ladder has an infinite amount of rungs? So evidently, the ascent of that ladder is infinite. As much as you ascend, you could ascend even beyond that point. The Torah, the only way we could understand God is through our own spiritualization of ourselves. How does the Jew spiritualize himself? Through, as we say before we do any mitzvah, Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvosov. You've sanctified us with your mitzvah. It's through the sanctity of doing the mitzvah that spiritualizes us. That gives us the capacity to recognize God. Torah, Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. The ultimate spiritualization of a Jew is the study of Torah. As we said in the name of the Vilna Gaon, one word of Torah is the equivalent to all the mitzvahs combined. So what, we're talking about mega energy. It's a mega infusion of spirituality. So a person studies and invests a good part of his day, and he studies with a proper intent. What is he doing? He's ascending that ladder. How much more could you ascend? That ladder you can ascend every moment that you're endowed with life. Every moment is a moment, an opportunity of ascent. There's still another rung you could ascend. If you choose not, you don't have to ascend. You remain just where you are. You may be at a very advanced level. But if you could ascend higher, why don't you ascend higher? The answer is because you don't recognize and appreciate the value of the next level of ascent. Because you don't appreciate it and understand it, the degree that you will have that relationship is the degree that you will ascend it. But what is the height of the ladder? The ladder itself has infinite rungs. Because the Torah that's given to us is God's wisdom, and through that medium, we're able to spiritualize ourselves and have that relation with God. And every moment that we live to the second, that endowment is because it has that value. It's a value to be able to utilize and take advantage of that opportunity, which is only taken advantage of if you see it as an opportunity and a privilege. And that's the challenge of life. You know, most people, they reach a certain point of advancement and then they plateau. They plateau. Why do they plateau? Because what is the motivation to advance? To be on top. So once I'm far ahead of the pack, we plateau. But a person recognizes the reason why I'm advancing has nothing to do with where everybody else is. It's where I am supposed to be. That is the focus. Where am I supposed to be? And understanding that reality, that God gives you all these years and all these opportunities, because it's where you're supposed to be. It's not to be head of the pack. It's supposed to be, you're supposed to be the most special, accomplished person vis-a-vis yourself. Then unceasingly you're climbing that ladder. Because it's not because I can look down and see everybody way below me, but rather you have to see the top of the ladder to reach the summit, and the summit you're meant to reach is the summit which is unique to yourself based on your own spiritual profile, and that has to be fleshed out as much as you can through the mechanisms which God gave us, which are the mitzvos and the Torah itself, and only through that do we have an appreciation and our vistas and horizons become broader and brighter to be able to take advantage of that. So we say, for all that you've done, we say in the Modim, Yizbarach v'Yisramam Shimcho Malkeinu. It should be blessed, your name should be blessed, should be exalted. We want that name to emanate. We recognize it's a source of all blessing. We recognize the exaltedness of the name of our King continuously. To what point? L'olam v'ed, forever. Forever. There's no such thing as forever. Right? But when it comes to God, there is forever. God's glory should be forever. We say in Hallel, David says, Lo omus ki echia. I will not die, but I will live, vasaper, masiko. And I will speak the actions of God. That's David. We said it in Hallel. Lo omus, I will not die, ki echia, because I will live, and I will speak the actions of God. Is it up to a person to live or die? When a person's meant to die, what does David say? I will not die, but I will live. David is saying, whenever I'm meant to die, that's God will make that determination. But if I'd be able to live, I wouldn't die. And why do I want to live? To speak the actions of God, to speak God's glory. Because God's glory, you can't stop speaking God's glory. Because if God is infinite, his glory is infinite. Therefore we say, for all that you've done, your name should be blessed, should be exalted. Tamid continuously. There should never be a lapse. Always going forward. L'olam v'ed. Not only continuous, forever continuously. There's a midrash, very interesting midrash. We find that the Jewish people, the first temple was destroyed because of they violated three cardinal sins: murder, idolatry, adultery, incest. But yet, Jeremiah the prophet, Yirmiyah Hanavi, who authored the Eicha is one of the scriptures, it's elegies, speaking about the destruction of the temple. And he mourns, and this we read on Tisha B'Av, we read Eicha. It's the scripture that's read. So over there, Yirmiyah says, why was it destroyed? Because the Jews abandoned the Torah. They abandoned the Torah. Did not appreciate the Torah, and because they didn't appreciate it, therefore, Torah waned. So the question is always asked. Here the Talmud says that the reason why the temple was destroyed, the first temple, because they violated three cardinal sins, and yet Jeremiah the prophet says, because they didn't study Torah properly. Is it A or is it B? The answer is not contradictory. The Talmud tells us a number of locations. The only mechanism that's able to incapacitate the evil inclination, meaning the animalistic drives within us, is only the study of Torah. That is the antidote. The antidote to that is the Torah. As King Solomon says, Ner mitzvah Torah or. What is the illuminator? What gives us clarity? What gives us clarity that we can't be hoodwinked is only the Torah itself. That gives us a sense of what is and what's not. Because they didn't study Torah properly, therefore we got all snagged. We became all convoluted. We lost clarity. As a result of that, we justified behavior which is unjustifiable. Adultery, murder, and idolatry. So they're both true. What was the basis and the cause of going down that slippery slope and eventually going off the cliff? Because they didn't study Torah. But how did they go off the cliff? Because they violated the three cardinal sins. Therefore, it's not contradictory. One is the cause of the other. So the Midrash says that because it cites a verse in Daniel Daniel's written in Aramaic that because they abandoned the Tamid means the continuous, the God abandoned his Tamid. The Torah, we read, there's a verse in Joshua which says, you must engage in Torah unceasingly day and night. So what does it mean, unceasingly day and night, engaging in Torah study? That means Tamid, that means continuously. So the Torah itself is called Tamid. It's continuous. It was created to be applied continuously. A person is on life support because his inner organs cannot maintain his life. So the doctor says he has to be on life support for the rest of his life. Because the moment you take him off, he expires, he dies. In terms of our spirituality, to be able to maintain it and advance it, you have to be continuously connected. Tamid, continuous. Because Joshua states, a Jew must study Torah unceasingly, meaning every moment available to the Jew. Of course, you have to sleep, you have to eat, you have to earn a livelihood, you have to relax. But it's the moments which are available to study. Every one of those moments has to be utilized for that purpose. That's Tamid. The Jewish people are called Tamid in the book of Daniel. Why are we called continuous? Because we are the people who are bound to that continuous process. We have to be continuously connected. The moment you disconnect, first there's a brownout, then there's a blackout, and everything goes dark, and everything stops to function. That's Tamid. It's only through the Tamid, the Torah, which is Tamid, which is continuous, do the Jewish people, do they assume the persona of Tamid? They have that clarity continuously. But if God forbid, if we detach from what has to be engaged with continuously, then we're no longer Tamid. We're no longer that people. We're saying your name should be, because of all you've done, and we appreciate, we recognize, your name should be always blessed, exalted. The name of God relates to the relationship that he has with this existence. It should be Tamid, continuous. Why should it be continuous? Because the value of existence creation is that we should recognize him continuously through the study of Torah. To what point? L'olam voed. Forever. But forever is beyond this existence. Meaning, it's like David said, Lo omos kiechia. I will not die, I will live. L'saper masakor. To speak the actions of God. If it was up to me, I'd live forever. It's not meant to be, because God says a person doesn't live forever. But in terms of my will and my appreciation for God is, I will sing your praises forever. If I would live forever. If you choose to take me before the forever, so I'm not able to. But if it was within my choice, I would not die. I would want to live to be able to do that. So our acknowledgement is, for all you've done, and we appreciate, we acknowledge, and we have that sense of indebtedness and beholdeness, your name should be continuously blessed, exalted. The name of our King, meaning King means we are your subjects. We as your subjects, that's our wish. That is what we yearn for. That's what we want. And when Hashem hears this, then God only increases the flow of that energy, and the relationship becomes tighter and more intimate between us and him. That's exactly what we're saying over here. And then we say, there's the Jewish people and there's the world. What about the world? What do we want for the world? You say, something? The nations are irrelevant to us. No. Factually, if nations of the world, they walk the face of this earth, and the beneficiaries of God's beneficence and everything he does for them, them not recognizing God is a disgrace. Because of our appreciation for who you are, we want all mankind to recognize who you are. All the living, not only the Jewish people, All the living should acknowledge you forever. Of course, that's the ultimate. How do you have people being beneficiaries of God's unlimited kindness and they believe it's something other than the source? It's painful even to think about it. The story which I made up, said it over many months ago. A person every month for his whole life gets a $10,000 check every month from this anonymous benefactor. His name is Mr. Michaels. Okay? He's the delivery boy. Pulls up with his limousine, has the envelope, drops it off. He says, you were chosen. Okay? And this goes on. The man's already marrying off his grandchildren, educating them. And whoever that anonymous benefactor is, this person delivers it without a fail, exactly what it has to be delivered for the amount that has to be covered. So who do you, afterwards, I've been benefiting from this for 50, 60 years. I think I'm going to throw a party to show my appreciation. Who does he throw the party for? For the mailman, for the delivery man? Or do you sing the praises of the benefactor, although you don't know who that benefactor is? Because you only know him to the degree that he revealed himself to you. No. You have a supplier, and through the supplier, you make a fortune. Profits. You have one kind of a supplier. You have an advisor. But who do you thank? The advisor is only the medium. If God would not want you to succeed to the degree you would succeed, you would not succeed. So who do you offer your praises to? It's a level of understanding, clarity, that everything is only a medium to receive something. But who's the ultimate benefactor? All mankind should recognize that it's you, but it's no one else. All who live, not only Jews, they should give thanks to you, should acknowledge you, and they should truly praise your name. What does it mean, truly praise your name? It should be they shouldn't praise you because you give them. Because that's love which is contingent on you being a beneficiary of receiving something. It should be unconditional love. The praise should emanate from the recognition of who you are, even the non-Jew. We're going to stop here today.